alone a drone that taxi service. We're not there yet. But I think it's interesting that they're making strides in advancing and further pushing the envelope in terms of the marriage between tech and lifestyle. And as you said, Osei, you're right. They've done a lot, whether it be in robotics. They're doing a lot in terms of AI and what have you. Recently, they allow women to be able to drive. Can you imagine? So maybe it'll be women driving the drone taxi services.
Damn. Okay. On that note, speaking of the ladies that lead, we got Christian on deck. Christian, what's up with you?
I am doing well and keeping up with all that is tech and savviness.
All right, that's what's good.
Updates.
I know that, you know what I'm saying, we were kind of talking offline about this whole Facebook situation, and I've heard a lot about the Russian government buying close to $300,000 worth of Facebook ads during the U.S. election. Can you elaborate on it?
Yeah, so Facebook and Twitter have just now taken down about over 400 accounts that have been supposedly or allegedly linked to Russian operatives that have basically been, I don't want to say spewing, but spreading different propaganda and different political agendas, especially, and they even touched on the Black Lives Matter movement. Last year, they actually were posting stuff and some ads on Facebook that were even geographically targeted to post in Ferguson, in Baltimore, to actually really get some emotions moving and going around Black Lives Matter and to create a little bit of tension, which has already been there in the climate of America right now. So it's really interesting that, the ability to spread agenda is now all over social media, and now these companies have to beware of the way that their platform is, making change and the voice is being used.
Definitely interesting to see how that type of infiltration really kicked in. And one of the other things that I think, our listeners should know is there was a 60 Minutes interview with Vladimir Putin where he spoke on Ferguson in that interview. So I guess it wouldn't be that far-fetched, and he spoke about the issues with the police and everything else. So this seems to be a developing story. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more about that.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I would chime in just to say a little bit more on that, to see that outside invasion using social media to further an agenda. This is interesting times that we're in. I think, we noted, imagine if we did this to Israel or some other country. We're in a day and age where we don't necessarily, we have frenemies. The U.S.-Israel relationship is quite interesting, but yet they have spies on each other. The relationship with England and the U.S. is interesting, but they have spies on each other as well. So to see what's going on with Russia in terms of the voting scandal and what role they may have played is just, I can only wonder, is this going to be like Marilyn Monroe and what went down with the Kennedys, that we have to keep in the vaults for, 25 years? I think we learned that in school. Certain things, scandals, we have to suppress them so that today's generation get old and then we don't have no voice to it. So it'll be interesting to see what's going to happen in the coming months. I think more so, what does this do to Black Lives Matter? Because then they get scarred by this, because they actually become a guinea pig to somebody else's agenda.
Strong, very strong. Well, that's what it is. You know how we like to get down with Check This Out News. We got some new music that'll be on the website. You can go over to checkthisoutnews.com and definitely let us know what you think on the website. We're going to take a quick break, and we got the Loonies, and you're going to hear new music from the Loonies next. And then after that, after we get with them, we're going to talk to Sequoia Blodgett from Black Enterprise. They got a big tech conference that's going down, and this is actually definitely very huge for people of color, so you definitely want to check for that. You can get more details on that at checkthisoutnews.com as well.
Hey, yo, this is Ice Cube. This is some of that exclusive you can't get nowhere else. They know.
Consensus, should we be leading with team shotter? Powder or cream, partner, we do what you seeing, partner, we move what you needin', partner. By any means, no pressure. With some fluids and effort and blowing out, we ain't nowhere near going out. Never when niggas is born flocking the cheddar. This is Gotham, nigga, east to the bottom, forever. This lunatic music, bringing guap forever. The LUNIC, bringing guap forever. OAKLAND, bringing guap forever. We ain't never had no pressure, nigga.
They know, they know, they know.
I know they know what.
No pressure over here. No pressure, no pressure. They know, they know, they know.
We ain't no fuss.
Ain't no pressure over here. No pressure over here. They know, they know, they know. Ain't no pressure over here. No pressure over here, my nigga. No.
Weirdos wearing these fucking weird clothes, dressed in stilettos, him in his biscuit shadows. Tech with the air hose, yeah, I crept with the metal like the scarecrow. My trigger got slow heart and I'll get told, boy. It's man versus bitch niggas with man purse. Let the can squirt and put his ass in a van hearse. After turf, peel it back, see the stand first. Wayne 10 work, count bands, my hands hurt. Like the perp, the street smoke. They only blowing up a jackass where Steve-O. I don't really know who from the south or the east coast. Everybody sounding like Drake and the Migos. We in the future, computer love the niggas tap had babies. Mama rap, all these fucking crack babies crazy. The golden era was the 90s and the 80s. Now this rap shit looking real shaky. Frankie,
They
baby.
know, they know, they know. I know they know. No pressure over here. No pressure, no pressure. They know, they know, they know. Ain't no pressure over here. No pressure over here. They know, they know, they know. Ain't no pressure over here. No pressure over here, my nigga, no. No pressure over here, my nigga, no. No pressure over here, my nigga, no.
All right, Sequoia, I'm sorry. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome, awesome. Great to meet you. I know that you are doing some huge things in the world and bridging the gap as it relates to tech. So a little bit. You come from radio, right?
I do come from radio.
What was up with that? How'd you make this jump?
Yeah, so I was in radio in the very beginning of my career. I was actually at 100.3 The Beat in Los Angeles.
Wow.
And, yeah. And, of course, I don't know if you know that story, but there was a lot of internal things happening. We switched to different formats. We sold the station.
Sure.
All kind of crazy stuff.
Sure.
So, eventually, simultaneously while I was doing that, I was also in production. So I was a film major in college. And so while I was in production, I was also working in radio. So kind of trying to fill out where in entertainment I wanted to be. And then eventually went on to direct commercials and music videos. So left that entire world behind. But honestly, that's still the tightest family of people that I've ever worked with.
Wow. Awesome. I know, saying you've made this transition in terms of working with Black Enterprise, and just what are your thoughts on tech overall, especially as it relates to people of color in 2017 and where it's going?
Yeah, I think a lot of people just don't know, right? I think something that's really interesting that came up at Congressional Black Caucus last week is every single company should be thinking about themselves as a tech-enabled company, because no matter what space you're in, as time transitions forward, every company is going to be based in some realm of technology. So I think people just aren't really thinking about that as a bigger picture yet. I think our people are in the space, and I think we're trying to get acclimated, but we just need more knowledge and more awareness.
as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Now, what do you think that we as people of color can do to just continue to make ourselves more tech savvy? Obviously, that's the new currency, and that seems to be where everything, is really residing as of now. I mean, it's certainly not as industrial as it once was, but what do you think that we can do to make ourselves more valuable?
Yeah, like tech is the new fly, right? Like we're not talking about circuits and IT technology. We're talking about innovation. We're talking about futurism. We're talking about creating platforms that change people's lives. So I think specifically for Black enterprise, we're focused on getting those stories out and making people knowledgeable of that content, whereas prior they may not have known there were certain people in those spaces. I mean, prior to me even going to Black enterprise, I was at Draper, which is this program that kind of gets people involved in the entrepreneurship ecosystem and understanding venture capital and investing and actually starting a startup as a founder. And I think that our people just weren't privy to that knowledge. And so what we need to know is how to actually go about the process by informing ourselves, but not just that, also seeing people in the space that look like us, because we're then able to relate back to it, right? So I think it's just a lot of putting people in the forefront that actually have been successful tech founders or tech venture capitalists are actually in this space, and giving people those examples so that they're like, okay, cool, that person looks like me. That's something I want to do.
So I know you've created this new online platform. You were talking about Draper University, and, you were able to get people to invest and believe in your vision. How did that come about?
Hustle. So when I entered the tech space, I did not know anything in terms of venture capital investment, what that looked like. I didn't even know what that process was like. And it's interesting because I'm from the Bay. So I had moved out to Los Angeles and kind of disconnected from what Silicon Valley was doing. And when I came back, I was like, man, like, what is all this? Like, why is there all of this new innovation and all of these conversations around funding and building these like 10X companies, and what does that actually mean? So when I was directing commercials and music videos, it was a lot of hustle there. It was like I was one of very few female directors, and it took a lot of grit and grind and just a lot of tenacity to get to where I was. So I already kind of had that embedded into my DNA. So when I came to Draper, I was very green, but I was like, hey, this is something I want to do. There's a problem in the market that I'm trying to solve, and I think that I can solve it. And I just fully immersed myself in the program 130%, and Tim saw that. And he was like, listen, I don't know if this product is going to be successful. I don't know what the trajectory of that looks like, but this girl is going to be successful, because he saw how green I was when I came in and like how much I had grown and learned over the 7-week process. And having that connection with him and him being able to see it every day 24/7, because it was an all-immersive program. We basically lived there. So being able to see that process, he was like, okay, she's got something.
Wow. So initially, and I read that you had a relationship app initially.
Yeah.
Okay.
that
so
that was the problem in the market I was trying to solve.
Right. So you were filling a lot of void. That always works.
Exactly. So it started as a relationship advice platform because I'd seen all of these apps, and at the time the market wasn't as saturated, but it was like Tinder out there and Bumble and like all of these, OkCupids and Match.coms and all of these platforms that connected you with people.